I've never met a top professional who does not want to retain their top clients and get them to turn into more clients via referrals. Yet, even with that being the desire of every good professional that I know, uh, all too often we spend too little time and effort trying to actually cultivate those kinds of relationships, those long-term client relationships. Well, today's episode is dedicated to helping you leverage the concept of strategic gifting so that the people who you want to have back and the people who you want to refer you don't ever forget about you. And so we're going to talk about this concept of strategic gifting. I have the perfect guest to walk us through this today. I'm excited about today's episode. I'm sure you will be too once you know all the details of what we're going to be sharing with you. Talk soon. The big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and this is the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. All right, everybody, welcome back to today's episode. Again, all about strategic gifting. Do you realize that with just a small investment of money and a small investment of time and effort to create a system that, again, you can have people who you adore working with coming back to you and telling their friends about you? That's what today's episode's about. Again, I'm excited to bring today's guest, really put a spotlight on him. His name is Matthew Hansen. I've seen him in action and the way that he teaches strategic gifting, and I'm excited to have you here today, Matthew.
Thanks, Justin. I'm happy to be here.
Let's dig into this concept. I think I was really, my eyes were open to this concept when I read the book. Hold on, you're probably gonna have to remind me of the name of it. Giftology.
This guy right here.
That's it. So the founder of your company, if I understand correctly, was the author of that. And it was actually my older brother who's got a great mind for business. He was sharing with me. He's like, you got to read this book. And he told me this story of, in fact, maybe you can tell kind of the opening story of that book just to kind of whet people's appetite on this concept about how he fills like a hotel room full of like suits. Do you know the story I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Please do tell it.
Yeah. So John Ruhlin's the author. He's a friend of mine. I just said hi to him about a week ago in Dallas, Texas. Great guy. And yeah, you should all read that book. It's a deep dive into gifting. But he wanted to impress a VIP that he'd been trying to reach and get a scheduled appointment with for like a long time. And he knew this. He did some research about this gentleman, and he found out that he really liked Brooks Brothers, if I recall the brand right, like just absolutely a Brooks Brothers fan. And so he arranged a meeting at a hotel and somehow convinced the hotel management to let him in to this gentleman's room to surprise and delight him. So he found out what his shirt size was, pant size, inseam, everything. And he ordered every single thing that Brooks Brothers made in that gentleman's size and filled his room like a private shopping experience with Brooks Brothers clothing. And so he met this guy in the foyer, escorted him to his room. This guy had no idea what was going on and said, hey, I got a little surprise for you. And boom, opened the door, and there's like his own private Brooks Brothers experience. And John told him, hey, pick out whatever you'd like. And by the way, John spent $10,000 on clothing for this guy on his Visa card, and said, pick out whatever you'd like. The guy picked out 2 or 3 items, was just absolutely blown away. And from that meeting, he was introduced to Gary Vaynerchuk, and then the list goes on. And it just was like, it just opened up so many doors. Probably cost him around $300 maybe, and a lot of effort. But my gosh, that's like a classic story for sure. So hopefully that's not a spoiler on that story in the book.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really great way to open up today's conversation because, again, the story, as I remember the story from those introductions that gentleman, like the recipient of the Brooks Brothers gifts, had created for John. Is John? Is that right? Am I saying his name right?
Yeah, it's John.
Mm-hmm. He actually had made millions of dollars from those connections. Like,
oh yeah.
And it like sometimes you think like, well, oh my goodness, I got like buy $10,000 worth of like stuff or $300, whatever it was, right? It's like I can't afford that. And it's like, and that's why we think small. That kind of thinking is what keeps us living a very small life, having a small business, and having a small reality. When you take ideas like this and you say, I wonder what's possible. What could I do that might not to like your accountant make financial sense, right? Where it's like, you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on one client, like that'll never work, right? But then it's like, that's not the lens you should be running this through, right? Of your accountant. You should be running it through the eyes of your marketing team, right? Of like, what if, or rather your kind of chief growth officer, right? And if you have a very small business, that's you, right? Put on the hat of like, how do I grow this thing the fastest? In fact, I'm reminded of Peter Thiel, one of the most kind of legendary investors in all of Silicon Valley. Oftentimes when people come to him and present, he'll say, okay, what's your 10-year plan? Which catches some people off guard. And then he'll say, how can you complete your 10-year plan in the next 6 months? And they're just like baffled, right? But the few who answer it are able to be investable to him. And I think that concept is, if I had to just build a business based on my existing relationships and doing the cute little kind of pop by thing, or like whatever it is that you're doing now, you're going to continue to grow very incrementally, right? And your life's not going to change much. But when you really start to say, what can I do to really wow people? What can I do to really take somebody who is an ideal client or could be an ideal client and really knock their socks off? Like really cause them to say, holy crap, you really went above and beyond here, right? You think through that lens, and all of a sudden your world starts to open up and you realize why there are some people who just perform in the top percent of the top 1%. It's because they think a little bit bigger and they have this concept of, I know the right people that I should be in contact with, and I'm going to do something to wow them, right? So I'm talking too much here. We're here to learn from you. Tell us, Matthew, what else have you learned around this concept of gifting? Like what does it really do for the people on the receiving end?
That's a good question. And that, I think that's a question that everyone who's gifting, I call them VIPs, whether referral partners, whether it's strategic partners that you're aiming to impress, whether it's your clients, past or present, or future, if you're future oriented, to impress someone that you wish to win. I think how does that gift make them feel on the receiving end? Is this gift enhancing the relationship? Is it lifting up the relationship? Is it making them think highly of you, highly of that relationship? And is that gift itself, a expression of the lifelong relationship you're working to build with that person? So those are questions I like to ask, on a consultation when I'm chatting with someone who's thinking about their gifting strategy. Is like, what does that gift convey? What, giving a cheap gift is like, it's better to give nothing than to give a cheap or thoughtless gift, for sure. And I've seen so many what I call tchotchkes given out over the years that I won't go there, but it's really a matter of personal pride and professionalism in what you're gifting, and is it conveying the message that you wish to give to your client? So there's all different ways we could approach this. Like, we could talk about branding a little bit, and how to properly brand or not brand, but really you want to ask yourself, how is the recipient feeling on the other end? Is my gift, a long-term gift or just a short-term, plug? So, yeah, those are some thoughts that come to mind, Justin.
I love it. You're really hitting down a vein that I believe strongly in. Obviously, the book, The Upstream Model, is really designed to say, how can I find a few key referral partners, pour into them deeply, and they send me a consistent flow of warm referrals, as opposed to marketing to the masses, which, by the way, if you market to the masses, you can't afford to go deep with anybody, right? Nope. It's like, I'm going to send them all a mailer. My budget's gone, right? Whereas you take that budget that would have like hit 10,000 people, and you light up a few people's world, and all of a sudden, right? So this is completely in alignment with what I teach and with what I love. And I would ask, if there's anybody watching here live right now, if you have any questions about gifting, please put it in the chat of whatever platform you're watching. We'll see that. We'll answer that. If we miss it by chance, we'll circle back and get the answer to you afterward. But let's make this as interactive as possible. For those who listen to the podcast after the fact, if you have questions, please submit them to me on social media. We'll get those questions to Matthew as well. But you said some really interesting things there about how it really is a portrayal of how long you want that relationship to last, right? So many people will give, like something edible, right? And it's like, well, that will probably last you a meal, right? So almost what I'm hearing you say is that like, that's indicative of the fact that I want you to remember me for the next meal, right? And again, that's probably a little harsh, but to your point is that there are some gifts who are really designed to be consumables, and there are other gifts that are designed to not be consumable, right? To be kind of staples and stay with people for a long, long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talk about consumed and forgotten. I just Googled this morning what percentage of gift cards go unused, and it's 6 to 10% annually. So just let that sink in. Like, not only is that gift card going to be used up, if it is used like 90% of the time, it's consumed and forgotten very quickly. It might be enjoyed. An Amazon gift card is about the most generic thing you can give a person, and they will, mostly use it, but out of sight, out of mind very, very quickly, versus something personal to them that they're going to love and use, hopefully on a daily or weekly basis for the rest of their lives. It personalized to them, that goes a lot further. So
That reminds me
gift
of
basket, by the way, I'm not against. You could add their favorite beverage, but you always have to be careful, adding any kind of alcohol to a gift basket, because you don't even know if they drink or not, or if their cousin, just became, an alcoholic or whatever. So you've got to really be careful with what you're adding to gift baskets. But let the basket, if you like to personalize like that, let it enhance the gift, the central gift, and let that stand out, versus just giving consumables doesn't serve anyone long term, and often fills landfills and thrift stores. So,
well, and I think there's a fine line between being able to do something that's repeatable and systematic to where you can do it, and something that's still customized, right? And that's why I became a fan of yours and kind of what you bring to the marketplace, because I actually have heard of agents who, like, they'll listen very, very carefully during the listing appointment. I remember one in particular. I'm a big fan of Jen Lilly and what she does. She was talking about how they were talking about a birdhouse. Like, that'd be the perfect tree for a birdhouse. And so for a closing gift, she got him like a birdhouse. And I thought, that's unbelievable, right? That's why she is who she is, why she does so well. And I thought, how duplicatable is that? And how much time did it take her, right? And again, she's probably somebody that actually kind of pulls it off. But for the rest of us, right, that are less superhuman than that, I think having something that's actually systematic, to where we can say this happens every time, all the time, and it doesn't take a Herculean effort for me to pull off and get it done and go find somebody to do all these unique things. I think needs to, at least as a start, needs to be a filter through which you decide what system you adopt, because it could be very, very easily that you choose something that's amazing for the first 3 clients, and you're like, I don't have time to do that anymore, right? Or I don't have the budget for that anymore, right? So having a system. Talk to us a little bit about those professionals who you work with, Matthew, that are most successful at doing this. Talk about about it being systematic a little bit, because I think that's an important component.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of Drew Coleman right off the bat. So instead of like Drew hiring an assistant to go out and shop every single client for something specific, which, if you do have enough time to like get that deep and find out exactly what they want, it may or may not work out well for you, because they could already have that thing. They could already, there's ways to miss the mark. But if you have a system in place as a busy professional, it is the way to go. And so I recommend really choosing gifts that are universal. For us, it's what's centrally placed in the kitchen. But a system in place is like having us engrave the client's name as it goes out to each client individually with a cover letter, which we have cover letters. Here's actually a guild cover letter that we utilize, but we customize the gift letter to align with that lifelong relationship, and it ties in the lifelong quality of the gift itself. And so that having that system in place is having us ship the gifts for you with that cover letter, gift wrapped and engraved to the recipient. That's in my opinion a perfect system in place. And you can do a multi-tier approach where you're giving different price points for different category of recipients or VIPs. So
yeah, I love that, where you decide in advance that it's customized. It's something that you can customize. It's something that people will value, something that they care about. And yeah, you can, as you said, you can have a kind of a scalable system that can scale up to where certain clients that are, kind of more deserving of a bigger gift would be, you can easily just check that box and have it go out. And I think,
yep, your A, B, and C list, for example,
as I'm, for those that know me well, know that I'm the CEO of a company called Pro Insight, and we're a technology company, but we're a technology company that doesn't step between professionals and their clients like many big tech companies do, right? They get between you and the client. Our job is to use technology to bring you closer to the client. And so I think about this system. One thing that I've learned about running a technology company is it has to be highly scalable. It has to be duplicatable. It has to be something. And that's why technology companies can really scale, is because there's an element in there where you could say, I've got 1 client this month, or I've got 50 clients this month, and they all still get the same repeatable experience. That's a real business. That's the difference between just a well-paid job and a business is that you actually have systems in place. In fact, a business I've heard it defined as it's a series of systems. Right? It's a series of systems that serve a client at such a level that they, obviously impart money to you to have them, to have that experience. And so I love this concept of a system. Anything else that you'd add to creating a systematic experience?
Yeah, I would say that the timing of when you're gifting matters. So don't choose, actually, if you're a realtor or a lender, don't choose the day of closing, because that is a busy day that your client is just preoccupied with everything else they have to deal with. So a gift is just one more thing that they have to pay attention to in that moment. So you don't want your gift to be one more thing. You want it to be a surprise and delight experience. So either pop by in person if you have the time, and hand deliver the gift yourself at hopefully like 3 weeks later after closing if you're a realtor or lender. But don't gift at holidays at all or their birthdays, because that's when they're receiving other gifts. You want the gift to stand out. Choose a random holiday, MLK Day, 4th of July, something that they're not going to expect. And then they get this gift, nice, thoughtful letter from you. They are absolutely flipping out, and oftentimes posting on social media with their friends. So it's a great way to stimulate referrals. Just do it that way, timing wise, as another quick
Interesting. Again, because this audience really is real estate agents and lenders primarily.
Mm-hmm.
That concept of 3 weeks, because you're right, at closing, there's a good chance your gift will get lost right? If you're not careful. It'll get lost in it and everything. So yeah, 3 weeks to get in, get settled in, and then have something kind of a wow factor delivered. Or like you said, if it's not tied to a particular closing, choose a holiday is what you're saying. I love that. It's a great concept.
Yep. And just to bring a handwritten card to the day of closing. Hey, I have something special. I want to pop by and give it to you later. And they love it. So it doesn't have to be like complete surprise, but delight them.
Huh, that's really interesting. So you anticipate the giving of the gift by giving a handwritten note, say, hey, I know it's going to be hectic here for the next couple of weeks. Here in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I want to drop by a gift for you that I'm having made for you. And I'm really excited to share it with you. Right. So that concept is a great point. I've oftentimes heard it said that people get as much joy out of anticipating a vacation as they do the actual vacation itself. So I'm assuming that maybe the same is true from a gift of like, oh my goodness, you're going to bring me a gift, right? This is anticipation.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's exciting. And also it's a tangible way to show your clients that the close of the transaction is the beginning of this relationship, not the end. So you're acting in a way that most, real estate agents do not act. Most agents out there, and don't want to offend anybody, but most agents I've met are transactional. So if you're into that, if you really are into that lifelong relationship, then do things that show it. Do the 1, 3, 5-year anniversary touches is another thing I'd really advise, because what's coming up, their next transaction, and if you're keeping top mind in a very tangible, personal way, they are going to use you again. So
you think about
your business.
What a real estate agent will pay for marketing, right? Oftentimes companies that pay, those big tech companies that I'm referencing, right? Like a Zillow will pay 40% to get a client. And it's like, if you were to just go back and say, I got a repeat business of all the clients I've served over the years and a referral from, let's say an annual referral from each of those, would your business be set? And the answer would be, yeah, it'd be set. Great. Well, why is that not happening? We have to ask ourselves the question, why is that not happening? Well, probably because I treated them as transactional. They were transaction that I was grateful for. That I'm hoping I get another transaction, as opposed to a relationship, right? As opposed to something that really gives in such a way that they feel that you want to continue staying in contact with them.
Yep, that intention people really can tell. So even if it's unspoken, they can tell. Yeah.
Now, because we're a little short on time today, which has been an awesome episode, I want to be sure that people know what you do. I think it's pretty apparent that you're either a really scary guy with a bunch of knives, or that this is maybe what you do for a living. It's the latter, folks. It's the latter. Yeah. He's not a scary guy at all. He doesn't just like threaten people with knives. He actually, this is your business, right? So you've been in the Cutco Hall of Fame, top 100 of all time producers there. And it's in part because I'll add in this cue here is that Matthew's found a way to find success through other people. For those of you that are looking to scale a business, right? He's not just out selling individual knives. He's found other people who have his ideal clients, talk about upstream, right? And he's found a way to create a system for them that creates a wow factor, a surprise and delight factor for his clients. So anything you want to say about kind of your business, Matthew, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. If you want to look at Cutco gifts, just go to cutcogifting.com. There's some great visuals. Cutco's been around for 75 years this year. And I've been with Cutco since 1993, but been working professionally in the gifting world for about 14, 15 years now. And yeah, they just make a fantastic gift. They're US made, guaranteed forever, sharpened for free, and they brand beautifully. And they're tax deductible if you put your logo on it. But again, you can get creative with how you brand and what you brand on these. But we can put a full system in place for you. We have an entire drop shipping team, engravers locally here in the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, if you would like to chat, just reach out to me directly. I'm sure, Justin, you'll put my contact information in there.
We will.
But yeah, and also anyone listening, if you mention the podcast, I'm going to give you some very, very special pricing. So make sure you mention Justin, and we'll make that happen.
So my wife is probably listening to this, and she'll probably like take you up on that. She's a big Cutco fan. It was funny. I had an aunt that got into the Cutco business for a short period of time. She didn't stay as long as you have. And my wife was like, we should support her. And I don't know if my wife is ever like really that gung-ho about supporting that particular aunt, but I think she was more excited about the knives. But it worked either way. We ended up supporting an aunt who I love. And at the same time, we have a whole house full of Cutco knives. And thanks to you, I've got a few more. So fun to spend some time with you, really learning about this concept of strategic gifting to really foster long-term client relationships. Again, folks, I want you to ask yourself that question of, if I had every one of my clients that I want to have back for all of their transactions and referring me once a year, what would my business and life look like? And if you don't already have that, I would encourage you to spend a little time thinking about how strategic gifting could really enhance that, could really cultivate those relationships, cause you to be top of mind frequently, regularly, and cause people to want to tell other people about you. So Matthew, thanks so much for being the expert on this topic, for helping so many agents who I love do this at a high level. And such a pleasure to be associated with you and all the good that you bring into this industry. So appreciate it very much.
I appreciate you, Justin. Thank you very much.
You bet. And my final request of everybody listening here today are these 3 simple words: go think bigger. It's time, folks. 2024 is your year to think bigger. Let's do it. Talk soon, guys. See ya. You found value in anything that you heard here today, do me a favor and just take a quick screenshot of this episode. Tag me in it on social media. That will give you the heads up to create more content like this in future episodes. Also, if you are wanting to build your wealth advisory team in less than 30 days that gives you 2 to 4 professional referrals every month, go to proinsight.com